Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Dealmakers, where we sit down with the operators, innovators, and rainmakers driving real estate forward. Today's guest is a friend of mine. He's a guy who knows how to get things done, from running thousands of multifamily units to now helping buyers and sellers close the biggest deal of their lives, and a new venture, helping them live in a way that they want to. So, Justin Santini is a seasoned real estate operator turned agent turned contractor. And with a killer track record in property management, a mind for systems, and a new chapter in the residential space, he's worked with some of the biggest names in the DMV region, from Kettler to Limitless to Ascento. And now he's making moves with our team and with his latest venture. So let's get into how he scaled operations, made the leap, and what he's seeing now from inside the deal room. So, Justin, welcome, man.
It's great to be here.
Absolutely, dude. Thanks for joining us. I know you got a busy schedule. One of the things that excited me the most about today is that you've started a contracting business.
I have, yeah.
All right. Tell me about it.
So, throughout my tenure in property management and real estate, I've done a bunch of house flips. I've always been told I've got kind of an eye for design.
Yeah.
And, I've always seen a lot of these contractors kind of running out of the back of the truck very efficiently, hard for the customer to, kind of make decisions, get what they want, and have design input from the contractor.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be a really good opportunity for me to kind of use all my experience in operations, systems, processes, design, and my experience with my own flips and builds to kind of put that to work for other people. So I'm really excited.
Well, it's really awesome because, like, starting out is always tough in any business, but it's nice when you have a background in it. You know what you're doing, you know what things should cost, and you've got a good way. You really do have a great design eye. I've seen several of your flips. I'll see if I can put some of them up on the screen for the audience, but you do it at a level that seems incredibly high end, something that we don't really see. When people hear the word flip, they automatically think corners were cut, or, some kind of, you know, eh, profit mindset where you're just trying to do the bare minimum to get the most out of it, which I think that gets lost a lot of times, is that people will actually pay for quality.
hmm
And I don't think there's enough quality flippers out there. And that's why it has a bad connotation. I mean, it's not that dissimilar from real estate agents. There's, a few that do the bulk of the business because a few do it really well. And the few are worth their weight in gold, and, several are not. So it's not that dissimilar from that, from the world that we're in.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think there's a way that you can provide a quality product without spending a fortune. That's, I think, where I've done really well in my flips is I've been able to source, whether it's suppliers or uh, local furniture dealers that have got things at a lot more reasonably priced.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to kind of achieve a high quality finish without going to, the some of the custom cabinet stores, or the where they're extremely expensive. So I think kind of being resourceful, I've been able to kind of find, okay, here's a cabinet maker that has very similar quality, but a lot less pricing, more factory direct type pricing.
Yeah.
And so I think that helps a lot, with kind of the overall look and scope of the renovation.
Where do you see your business? Where do you see this contract business going? And are you going to focus on renovations? Are you going to focus on flips or pre-sale renovations? Like what's what do you have in mind for it?
Yeah, so we're going to kind of have two separate arms of the business. So one arm is going to be primarily multifamily.
Okay.
So doing unit turnovers, capital improvements, lender type repairs, things like that. And then the other side will be the residential side. We'll focus on full renovation. So A to Z, from a flip to end user who wants to renovate and get their house completely redone, or a retail customer who's looking to have a new kitchen or bath installed. So really trying to be a full service contractor, so that can kind of handle everything from start to finish.
Well, we see so many properties around us, and we take clients out all the time to places that are maybe like, I don't know, tired might be the best word. um, Places that are 30, 40, 50 years old, and, they don't have an idea of what it costs to do this stuff. But they know that they want to redo the kitchen. They want to redo the bathrooms. They want to redo the flooring and stuff. I think it's such a value bonus for us to have that network with you where you can say, you know what, I can meet you over at the property this day and time. Let's go take a look at it. I can give you a good idea of what this is going to cost. I can tell you how long it's going to take to do it. I can give you a portfolio of examples of ideas and stuff where this is what we've done in the past. This is what we can do for you. I think it's incredibly invaluable for, especially for those people that don't have vision. I mean, I've been doing this now 12 years. I would say 10% of clients or less have vision. So having somebody there that's done it and that can show them an end product is incredibly valuable. And then we have clients that are, trying to sell that tired place, and, you know, they don't want to make a ton of renovations to it prior to listing because they're like, shit, if I was going to do it, I would have done it for me. But there are some things that people can do that you'll be able to identify by just being in the space all the time. Or no, this is how much it's gonna cost. This is where you should be spending your money right here because this is going to be your money maker. And it'll be worth the investment. We'll be able to cut your time down on market in half or even less than that. I think that's just an incredibly invaluable tool that we have never had before, and I'm excited that you're doing this, man.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. And, it's interesting. This is an interesting market, in the sense of you find that a lot of end buyers are looking for turnkey move-in condition. They don't want to deal with a project, which is very different from where I grew up. I grew up in upstate New York, a little more of a blue collar area. I grew up where you buy a house, you renovate it, and you add value, and yeah, that's what you do. So yeah, it's interesting. I think that's where I've had a lot of success in my real estate ventures personally, is because I've been able to produce a product that is literally turnkey. They can bring their toothbrush and they're ready to move in.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think kind of having that ability to um, go to a potential a seller to say, hey, here's what I think you could do to maximize the value on the home. Here's what I think it'll take, and here's what's in style now. So one of the things that I really like to do is I follow a lot of design magazines. Read a lot of design articles and watch a lot of HGTV and things like that to really find out what is trending, what is in. I'm looking at what's popular in this, out west in the California market, in
Yep.
Europe, what's coming in this area. And I try to kind of be on the forefront of that with my designs, so it's different. You want something that's different yet
Functional.
functional.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I think I do a really good job of kind of being on that innovative, that different, unique design element, and I think that's uh, what buyers are looking for. They want something different. They don't want white sugar cabinets all the time. They want something different.
Yeah.
What's new and unique. And so that's what we try to do.
Well, you think about, people buy a house, they're excited. It's one of the biggest investments they're going to make and all that stuff, but they buy a house for a lifestyle. And especially when you buy something that is turnkey and awesome, you want to show it off to your friends and family. So like when you can have them come over and they're all like, oh my God, look at this place. There's hardly any better feeling as a homeowner. It's a nice touch. But you mentioned, growing up in upstate. So walk me through the early years. All right. What was life like in upstate?
Cold and snowy. No, but yeah, upstate's great. It's funny. I think as a kid, you always think, "Oh, I got to get out of here. It's awful." Then you look back, you're like, "Actually, it wasn't too bad."
It's not that bad.
No, no, but yeah. So grew up in upstate New York. Grew up in more of a rural area outside of Rochester.
Yep.
My dad is extremely handy. So grew up doing house projects with him. We have a cabin in the mountains in New York that we built together. So I learned a ton from him. I come from a family of contractors. My grandfather is a contractor, a custom home builder. So been around construction and real estate my entire life. So it was kind of a natural progression to kind of move into the contracting side of the business.
Yeah.
But yeah, learned so much from my grandfather and my father about construction. One of the things that my dad always told me from a really young age was, if you're going to do something, do it right. And I really take pride in that. Like if my name is attached to something, whether that's a house flip of mine or a job that I'm on for a customer, doing it right is really important to me. I just think that I would never want my name associated with something that wasn't done right. And so we really hold that principle pretty valuable when I do a job.
So you've been, God, you've been around real estate forever. So have you always known that you were going to kind of get into contracting and doing flips and resales and all that kind of stuff?
So actually, originally, I wanted to get into development. I wanted to be a developer, work on kind of mixed use projects. However, when I graduated undergrad, it was in 2008, not the greatest time to jump into development.
Yeah.
So I kind of naturally progressed into property management. But I kind of always knew that I wanted to do something, I think, more creative than property management.
Okay.
Good at property management. It allowed me a little bit of that element to be creative, but not enough to kind of fulfill my juices of really getting in and making a tangible physical difference in a property. And so I kind of think I always knew that my end goal was getting into more of the construction, the house flipping side of the business.
Yeah. Yeah. Where'd you go to school?
Went to school in Ithaca College.
All right.
Yeah,
Ithaca.
yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Do you have any first jobs or anything like that?
So my first job was Burger King, actually. And what's funny is I could still make a Whopper.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it was funny because it was like an awful job in the sense of it was fast food, right?
Right.
But I worked with some really great people, and so I made it all right.
Yeah. 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 I feel that. So for those that don't know, your boy here was a sandwich artist at Subway during the high school years. Wasn't my first job, but it was probably my closest thing to a real job. So I had a paper route growing up, which my parents would kill me because I would refuse to wake up at 5 a.m. to do the weekend things, and they would end up having to do it with me, and it was not fun for them. Did a little bit of laboring at Homestead Gardens. Shout out Homestead Gardens. But yeah, I would say Subway taught me a lot. Not necessarily like how to run a business or anything like that, but just how to deal with customers, and wanting things to be done in a way that I would want them done for me. And it seems like, trivial because it's making a sandwich. Like, how hard can it be? But met a lot of great people that work there actually doing that. And I enjoy it, man. I mean, I would come home smelling like subs all the time, which my parents hated. I didn't like it. There's no washing machine out there that would get the smell out of these clothes. But the first jobs are always fun, man. I enjoy that. And I feel you on the Burger King stuff, man.
Yeah, definitely shapes you.
So you studied business management and real estate at Ithaca.
I did. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy those classes?
I would say yes and no. I always took the real estate classes, obviously. It was actually kind of funny. So I would say my worst classes were any of the accounting, the finance classes.
Oh, same. Hated them.
Which is hysterical because I, in my career, managed $100 million assets and budgets all day long. So it's kind of funny. I was horrible at accounting, horrible at finance. And now I like to say I'm pretty good at it. So I think it's something that you can't really learn off of a textbook.
True.
When you really see, okay, this is actually what's happening in real time, it makes a little more sense. But I always chuckle, and it was always something I found kind of humorous. So I was like, well, if I struggle with it and now I'm doing all right at it, anybody can figure it out.
Well, I also think like they do it. It's hard to make those classes engaging,
Yes.
So like classes like that, classes like economics, like there's valuable information in there, but when you're 19, 20, 21, I mean, it's hard to get real enthused about going to those classes. You're just doing enough to get by in most cases. Like, all right, let me just pass the class. I'm not necessarily like diving into this full stand because it's boring.
Yeah.
There's other classes like marketing and business class. That stuff's more exciting because it's a juicier topic than accounting and finance. So I second that. I did not do very well in any of my accounting or finance classes. So I feel you there. You cut your teeth managing units for Kettler. Was that your first job out of college?
So actually, I worked in college as a maintenance technician.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you know that. Yeah. So I was, funny story, I was leasing my first apartment, and there was a new construction building being built. And I ended up moving into the building, and I noticed that, it was a smaller property, and I noticed that they didn't have any maintenance staff. So I asked, like, what are you guys doing with maintenance? Because with my experience with my dad and my grandfather, I had a good bit of kind of general maintenance experience and knowledge. And so I ended up being hired as a maintenance technician for them. And I did that all through undergrad. So
Okay.
that was really my intro into property management. Towards the end of my senior year, our property manager was kind of taking some time off for some medical stuff. And so I sat in the office for her, and she was like, you really should consider a career in property management. You're kind of, you got a business degree. This is a really natural progression. So that's kind of what I did. I started in that, and I worked out of college. I moved to North Carolina for a little while, and worked for a very, very small property management company. And that's really where I kind of got in as a full-time property manager, and learned the ins and outs of the industry. Started with kind of single family, moved into multifamily, and then I started with Kettler when I moved to DC. So.
Oh yeah. All right. So what brought you to DC?
So my childhood best friend lived in DC.
Okay.
And I knew I wanted to be a little bit closer to home. North Carolina was great, but it was not, didn't feel quite like home. It was a little too hot.
Totally different pace of living.
Yeah, a little slower pace.
Yeah.
I'm a New Yorker, so so I got a little annoyed with the slow pace. So this was a good happy medium for me. It was right in the middle of the two areas, and so I landed here.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So what's take me into those first couple days at Kettler, the first couple weeks. What was that like?
Going from a small mom and pop property management firm to a large, multifamily operator like Kettler I thought I knew everything about property management. I'm like, oh, I've been doing this 3 or 4 years now. I know everything there is to know. And then you get to a company like Kettler, and you're like, wait, what's a purchase order? And why do I have to have contracts? But like, you really learn, wow, there's a whole kind of a corporate side of the industry. So it was a huge learning experience. They hired me originally to, they interviewed me for a senior property manager's position. Halfway through the interview, the regional was like, yeah, you're not a good fit for this position, but hold on one second. And so I'm like, okay. So sitting here, and their senior vice president comes out, and so he explained that they were looking to create a role, basically somebody to create this department within their company as the floating property management division.
Okay.
And they envision it being kind of like their triage unit, right? We've got a client that's upset or a property that's not doing great. It's send this full team in, and they're going to fix it. And he was like, hey, I think he'd be perfect for it. He's got a really diverse background. So I thought it was a cool opportunity. My entrepreneurial spirit's like, I can build this team. Awesome. Let's do it. So that's what I did. So they hired me on the spot for that. and I progressed in my responsibilities all the way up to a regional manager with them, and had a great run. And their team that I built out is still functional and still doing exactly what we did back
Damn.
then. So
So, but they really threw you into the fire. They'll give you all the customers that are pissed
yeah.
off, and we want you to deal with them, figure it out, and we'll see you later.
Yeah.
Did you have a mentor or anything during that time?
No, it was really kind of threw me in on it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, there was one guy that was kind of doing what I was hired to do, but on a very like part-time type level. Um, and I think they really realized that I was extremely resourceful. That I kind of just get it done. That's just the way I've always lived my life. I've no excuses, just figure it out. And they sense that, and so yeah, no, I got in. Kind of as I learned the industry and learned how to identify the big problems, wow, with a property, it was little easier. You could kind of come in and say, okay, well, it's either one of three things, right?
Yeah.
And you were able to kind of get in and figure that out, and then solve the problem.
What were some of those first lessons that you took from Hitler, especially those the first 6 months or year when you're trying to figure out, all right, now you've already got the spirit and background on a lot of this stuff, but walk me through some of the lessons and stuff that you learned early.
I think one of the biggest lessons I learned was that there are a lot of people that I think there's two types of employees. You've got an employee that's entrepreneurial and that will figure it out. But then you have employees that are great corporate level employees that are great at following a procedure to the T.
Yeah.
But if something arises from that, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge lesson for me because I've always been the entrepreneurial side. I always just figured it out. And so that was, I think, a really big lesson that I took from that experience of, okay, so how do you cater an employee that may not be that entrepreneurial, that able to fix it, and how do you still allow them to be successful on a property that's struggling and that needs somebody that's a little bit more dynamic,
Yeah.
to kind of figure out whatever the problem is.
Well, that's got to be tough, man. Because yeah, you're totally right. There is two different types of people, and some people that think outside the box, and others that are like very rigid, and they have to follow procedure and got to follow. Let me talk to corporate before we do anything else. Um, that's got to be tough to manage different people and different backgrounds and different personalities. How many people were on your team?
So at the end, our team was about 15 people.
Okay.
We were essentially a fully functioning property, you know, within a floating team. So, we would do everything from acquisitions. So we'd jump in, we'd get them standardized, company policies. And then then we would also do dispositions where we were getting ready to dispose of that property. Or we would, there'd be instances where we term the whole every employee on the property, the whole staff, and we jump in and run it from there forward. So it was a neat experience, but definitely, I think also realizing that you may have an A player, but not the right C. And so, in my industry and in multifamily, that could be, hey, I've got a manager that would be great at a sleepy, stabilized property, but they're not really good at a lease up or a new construction deal or a distressed asset that you're repositioning. So kind of learning, first the people piece, and are they worth retaining, and are they just not the right seat?
Right.
Or do you have a people problem in general and they're not worth retaining, and you have to move on and find somebody that would do an effective job.
Yeah. I mean, in that sense, you're kind of like a GM of a team, and you got to kind of put people in the right spots or replace them. It's a tough responsibility.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from managing and overseeing large multifamily portfolios?
I think that you make your money on the buy. So where I found a lot of challenges would be when a client would buy a deal with completely unrealistic expectations of how it was going to perform. Saw lot of that 2018, 2019, where underwriting deals at unrealistic cap rates or unrealistic expenses, um, floating rate debt, and so it doesn't matter how good your team is, you're not going to ever succeed. And so I think that um, you know it was important to be able to look at a performa and to say off the bat, this is never gonna perform this way. And I think that having a candid conversation with the client to say this is unrealistic was something that a lot of people in multifamily really struggled with. The large operators, sometimes they're just hungry for that management. They just want to grow their book. They want to grow their portfolio. Where I think it's really important to strategically select clients. And if you're looking at taking over a multifamily deal and you look at their performance and it's not going to be achievable, you can have that conversation with them at that point. Because if you say, "Oh, we'll try to make it," and the client has this expectation, and it's never going to happen, you set yourself up to have a really unhappy client and a
Right.
very bad relationship. And I saw a lot of that throughout my career of like, well, why did we take this client? This performer never would have worked. And you'd have a senior vice president that would say, yeah, we kind of figured that this was an unrealistic performer. Well, did you tell the client that? Did
Yeah.
inform them that this is not realistic? And a lot of times the answer was, well, no, this is what they underwrote when they wrote the deal. We were just going to try to achieve it as best we could. And I think that that's not a great approach.
Yeah.
It's really a partnership in any business, but especially in this business where you're managing 100 $200 million asset for somebody. They're really entrusting you with a huge investment. So if you're not transparent about your belief that their performance is gonna work or not, I think that's just a really bad start to the relationship.
Well, yeah, and this is a referral based business in most cases too. So if you do a poor job for one person, you think that that guy's not going to talk to everybody else that he knows in the space and say, "Yeah, don't work with these guys.
Yep.
They're not upfront about stuff." Um, how do you build systems that scale, especially in a people driven business? You've been very successful at that.
I think first identifying what's working and what's not working. So whenever I go into a new venture or a new company, the first thing I do is kind of find out from the team who's doing the task what's working, what's not working. I ask questions like, what's taking the most amount of your time and why? It's amazing. It's amazing the employees I've talked to, give you an example, lease renewals. I can't tell you how many times I've went into a team and asked, like, what's taking all this time? Oh, doing lease renewal letters. It just takes me so long. I'm like, well, you're not using a mail merge or you're not, oh, no, we type them all out. Well, of course it's taking a long time.
Yeah.
So really figuring out what's working, what's not working, and having a good idea of, I think, what the team is doing that's actually that you're trying to improve a process on, right? Like it's funny how many times I would see corporate level, the big players in the market creating a process or procedure sitting from corporate, who have no idea what they're trying to accomplish. And not that, but then they don't really test it. They don't see it in a real world environment. Um, where I look at something like that and I'm like, oh, haven't been off site that long. I know what the teams on site do. That's never going to work.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's really important to kind of identify what's working, what's not working, have an understanding or bring in somebody that has an understanding of how it's done on a daily basis, and then test it and make sure it works. That's kind of always been my approach. I have the motto, work smarter, not harder. And I think with a lot of the AI technology and a lot of the new technologies that are coming out, being innovative and being forthcoming on technology and being honest with yourself of, hey, this is not working. Like we need to figure something else out, even if that was a big investment or a big time investment in a company. Um, it's not always the most expensive solution that works the best.
Yeah. Well, that goes to the old adage, throwing good money at bad money, trying to force something to work that has been proven not to.
Yep.
Um, what separates great property managers from good ones? You mentioned a couple things.
That's a great question. Proactive versus reactive.
Okay.
Um, you know, there are plenty of property managers who are good, but tend to be reactive. It's like, oh shoot, there's a leak here. Let me get the vendor in to fix it right away. Okay, that's great. They got the issue resolved, but what, a, in my eyes, a great property manager says, all right, well, we do preventive maintenance, so I'm going to check that. Or, hey, I know I see PVC plumbing in my boiler system. I know that that's going to end up failing. I've had history of leaks, so let's do preventative maintenance on that. That to me makes a great property manager. Um, and I also believe that um, from a corporate level or a property management company level, uh, providing your on-site teams the tools that make them more efficient and allow them to be able to do what they should be doing, which is to be on site, to walk your property, to interact with your residents, to have great resident rapport and satisfaction. Those are the important parts. The reports and the financials, like those are all important, but if you don't have happy residents, all of the other things really don't matter.
Yeah.
And so what I find that a lot of these big companies do is they have a tracker for this and a tracker for that. And oh, you got to do this report on Monday, and oh, this report's due on Wednesday. And you're putting a manager just in an office to churn reports all day, when that manager really should be incentivizing the leasing team, meeting the employees, walking their physical property, things like that. And so I think that it's kind of twofold, but having a property manager who is proactive with it paired with a property management firm that is also proactive in their approach and efficient.
Yeah, but you see, it's like they've got to be engaged in what they have, engaged in the portfolio. If you just churn out reports and stuff, that's going to tell part of the story. But that's a great way. I mean, there's you get to think about that in a bunch of different walks of life, coaching and stuff. Like there's somebody that might know their X's and O's and stuff like that, but do they connect with the players? Do they not? And oftentimes, no. And if they don't, guess what? They're going to be gone pretty soon. Because you do have to have results, but the way to get the best results is through that constant engagement with the players that are involved. What do investors misunderstand the most about asset management?
I would say we're talking the multifamily space. I would say that they probably don't understand the submarket and the demands of the submarket or what their target demographic is. I think that a lot of times investors will look at the performance of the property, the projected performance of the property, but they don't really look at who's going to be living in the units. Do they have the income level to support the rent growth that you're projecting, or what's the sub market doing? It's funny, whenever I talk to an investor and looking at it, buying a deal, I look for things like, are they putting a Starbucks in the neighborhood?
Right.
Is there a Whole Foods that's planning on coming? Like you look at these big companies that spend a lot of money to really study the market. That's where you follow, especially if you're doing something like a value add or repositioning. It's interesting that this is a unique market, the DC, DMV area, in the sense that you've got a lot of institutional money.
Yes.
Where I'm used to a little bit more of the smaller suburban markets like upstate New York, where it's more family and friends that put a pool together and they try to buy a building. And so it's a lot different of an investment strategy here, a lot more competition, a lot more future competition. And so, when you look at a deal like in DC, you don't just have to look at what's there now. You have to look at what's planned in the next 5 to 10 years. And is submarket going to grow? Okay, that's great. That's one thing. But do you have 30 other lease ups that are going to come in that same submarket? That's going to start to drive your rents down because you're competing with lease ups with a 1 to 2 months free concession. So I think that kind of having a big full picture of your submarket, the demographic that's living there, the direction of that submarket, is a lot of times missed. It's more focused on the performance of the property and the expense savings or the growth of revenue through renovations, and not thinking about, oh well, what's the people actually gonna do
Yeah.
to be able to live there.
You're catering to people,
Yeah.
right? So you got to keep an eye on what they're doing. Um, let's talk about your jump from asset management into contracting. Um, what made you want to do that now?
I think, kind of going back to, I've always wanted to be in something that was a little bit more creative. It's funny, I've been told for a very long time, I mean, I think you've probably told, like, you, you know, you're so good at this, like you're so creative and so hearing that time and time again, really made me think, um, I've enjoyed having a successful career where I've made other investors a lot of money. And I do enjoy the systems, the processes, um, you know, the the challenge of multifamily. Um, but I saw an opportunity to kind of blend the two worlds together. One of the other things that I would see time and time again is I look at these invoices that I paid for multifamily contractors to come in. I'm like, gosh, this is insane. Like, why? Like, and this is just a ton of money that they're spending in getting subpar work.
Yeah.
And being in the multifamily space on the executive side, I would see things like inefficient vendors that were hard to get a hold of, that wouldn't stand behind their work. They didn't understand that this is a relationship business. Like, if I need you to paint an extra wall, but I'm going to give you $200,000 worth of work. So that just do it do it for free. It's a relationship business. And the number of contractors I've worked with over the years that stormed out of our office because we were requesting them to lower their bills slightly, or they burnt that relationship. To me was just, they didn't get it. They
Yeah.
didn't get it. And I thought, I could probably operate a lot more efficiently, but also understand that I understand that this is a relationship business. And if you're going to go a little extra and or discount a bill because an ownership is upset that it costs so much, like, it's worth the relationship. And so I think that was really what clicked with me, where I said, like, I think I could do this. I think I could do this very successfully. And I feel like it really blends the two worlds, my two experiences very well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Um, how do you plan on applying your operations background to the residential space?
Yeah. So, specifically residential, I think that, um, making a process that's easy for the client, right? So whether that's, on the residential side, hey, I need my house painted. Well, how can we, provide the client, like, full transparency on the project from, okay, here's your contract. You can sign it online. Uh, here's progress photos of the work. Your invoice is done. Oh, you can pay it online too through our app. Um, I think, like, making the whole process easy for the client is huge. And also, not just the client, but for the agent that's got their house up for sale. And, oh, hey, I can schedule this right online. I think that, to me, is really how I'll be able to blend my operations experience, my systems and processes experience. And I've got, my business partner has been doing this for 30 years. He's incredibly talented. He's going to be my field guy in our, really our operations with the contractors. Um, and we share very similar alignment that we do things right, that we will go above and beyond because our name and our reputation is really all we've got. And so I think that between our two mindsets of doing it right, being efficient, hiring the right people to do the job, and also being a full service stack. I want to be able to be, you know, from design to architectural drawing to permits, to, to construction in the final, like we want to be A to Z. I don't want you to have to call a designer and an architect. I want to be able to do everything in house, and that's our goal, is to be a one stop shop.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's something that we lack in the markets. It's something that I think every client wants. I think they love transparency and honesty. I can't tell you how many, you know, contractors I've dealt with or stories that I've heard from people where it's like, well, the project started as, $100,000 for this. And then we get the final bill and it's, double that. And you're like, this, well, where was the heads up at some point, Um, so that's great to hear, man. Um, what's a, what's a recent deal where the experience, where that experience gave your client a serious edge, whether it's in the multifamily space or contracting space?
Um, I have a deal that I've got in down Southern Maryland, and we took it over about a year ago. Some multifamily property. I was sitting at like 82% occupancy. Physically just awful tax credit property. So, it's a harder asset to manage. And we've actually today, I just looked at, we were at 80 or 98.7% occupancy. We, surpassed a projected NOI last year by close to 10%. We're on track to do it again this year. And this client had the opportunity to buy two new deals in the same market.
Yeah.
And so, really with that, my understanding of the submarket, turning that asset around, they were able to buy these two other deals. And we're optimizing the operations because we have three deals. We've got one general manager that's over all three deals. We have one service manager over all three deals. And it made a huge impact on their ability to buy a deal, underwrite it correctly. And they're 3 months into this deal now, and they're extremely successful. We're beating their perform already, and they're just happy as can ever be. So, yeah, it was a good success story. Definitely a great smaller suburban market.
Yeah.
What I'm used to. I'm a big fan of the suburban markets these days. I think, especially for multifamily space, it's a little bit more, a little more safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a story that goes to show any of you people, no matter what your space is, know your market, in and out. All right, let's get into a rapid fire Q&A session here.
All right.
What's the most underrated skill in real estate?
I would probably say, I would almost, it's true. I would almost say on the design, the spatial recognition, we've toured hundreds of houses together.
Yeah.
I can walk in and say that wall should go, kitchen moves there. Like I can just visualize it. That's just something I've always been really good at. Or, hey, move this here and then a flow there. I think a lot of times, talking about residential, it's like people don't have the vision to see things differently as the way that they're right there.
Yeah.
And I've added a ton of value for houses without changing a bit of square footage. It's just optimizing the square footage that you have. I think that's one of the skills that a lot of people, from agents to end users to buyers, they just can't see it. And it's like, for some houses, I'm like, if this seller would just drop that wall, and it would cost $5,000.
Yep.
they could add tremendous amount of value to the sale of this house if they just
No,
don't think about it.
no, they don't. It's an eye for detail. Let's do first thing that you look for when you're evaluating a property.
Location.
No doubt. Let's do what tech tool do you rely on every day? Don't tell me your phone. Give me something else.
Actually, I rely on every day. Recently, AI, ChatGPT.
It does come in clutch, man.
It's wonderful, wonderful.
Favorite spot to unwind in Annapolis?
My boat.
Yeah, that's hard to beat. What's your favorite trip to do on a boat?
I like going to the sandbar. I'll do downtown Annapolis is always I like just docking up downtown and having a couple beers with friends. That's always fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's do you have a deal that you wish you had back?
I have a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
Or deals I should have bought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Specifically when I lived in Charlotte, I looked at a lot of deals. I managed a multifamily deal in West Boulevard in Charlotte. Gosh, I wish I had it now. Yeah, the Charlotte was probably that was in my that was probably where I've seen the most progression in real estate in my adult life.
Yeah. Charlotte's blown up.
I moved in and I moved down there in 2010. Where, everything was kind of coming back from the bubble burst. And I've been down there recently, and just everywhere that it used to be there, a distressed, bad area where cheap houses are just all blown up now. So yeah. A lot of deals I wish I would have bought and still held on to.
Charlotte, we love you.
Mm-hmm.
I've asked this question a bunch to other guests on the show. What's one book that changed the way that you operate?
There's actually a book that I just read called "Don't Eat My Cheese."
Okay.
And it's kind of all about it's really all about kind of getting out of your comfort zone, and it's actually, I think, Who Ate My Cheese? That's Who Ate My Cheese.
Okay.
But it's all about kind of get out of your comfort zone and kind of getting out of your own way, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
Yeah. That's all right. So Don't Eat My Cheese, or Who Ate My Cheese. I like that because, we've had discussions, whether it be in the office or, at home, me and my wife talking, or I've heard this on a couple of podcasts recently. We're our own biggest enemy a lot of times. A lot of the things that you're worried about as a human being, most people don't care. You're worried about what other people think. Guess what? Nobody's paying attention. They don't really care. So get out of your own way and just do what makes you happy. Do the right thing. That's great, man. So,
I feel like people tend to lie to themselves more than anything else, right?
Yeah.
And I had a boss once that always would tell me, like, is that true, or are you lying to yourself to make yourself think it's true? And that I've lived by that, because it's very true. Sometimes you convince yourself of something that's completely not true. So
we've all done it.
And I've even looked at deals where I'm like, this deal makes sense. This is it. That deal's like, this doesn't make sense, but I just want it to make sense so bad that in my mind now it's going to make sense. So
a tingly feeling in the back of me is telling me, no, it's not.
Yeah.
But you convince yourself.
I always say, don't get emotionally attached. When I walk through a deal, it's funny because, if I'll walk through it with, if I bring my parents along or a friend along, they're like, this is so, I'm like, don't look at that. We're looking at this and that. Like, don't get it's obviously in our business, when it's an end user, that's what you want them to get. But for an investor, no, we don't want to get emotional. They don't want to look at like, oh, I can see myself thinking, no. Give me numbers, make sense.
Well, that makes sense, man. So, Justin, we'll wrap this up. I appreciate you coming in, man. This is great. For those of you listeners out there and people that are watching on YouTube or on Spotify, Justin's bringing a full career of operations, systems, and smart decision making with him. Whether he's overseeing 5,000 units or helping a young couple, run through a renovation or buying their first place. Um, fundamentals don't change. One thing that I know is going to happen with you on pretty much anything that you do, there's going to be clarity, there's going to be consistency, there's going to be execution. And it's something that we don't have a lot of in this space. So I truly appreciate you. If you're in real estate, pay attention to guys like Justin, quiet operators that are just freaking great deal makers. So, Justin, where can people connect with you to learn more about your latest venture or anything else, whether it's social or website or whatever you got?
Yeah, absolutely. So LinkedIn, it's my name, Justin Santini. Always on LinkedIn, so it's a great place to connect with me. Our construction company is Innovate Construction Solutions. It's innovateconstructionsolutions.com. We're launching a brand new full stack website. Should be out May 1. So definitely connect me on that. And then I'll give you all my contact info as well, the link.
Well, perfect. And I'll put that in the description of the show when we wrap. If you enjoyed today's episode, share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe to the Dealmakers podcast. We'll see you guys next week.